When my daughter revealed her in-laws were moving in, I discovered an unexpected life-transforming truth. Dave felt as if the air in the room had been stolen from him when Lily dropped her news. Over a plate of steaming meatloaf and mashed potatoes, his daughter's bright eyes sparkled with excitement, contrasting sharply with the sudden tightening of his chest. "Dad, Mom's parents need a place to stay. They're moving in." The words hung like lead weights, crashing into Dave's steady rhythm of life. With each passing moment, the invigorating scent of home-cooked food was overtaken by the sour taste of his independence slipping through his fingers. Years spent rebuilding cars and forging a sturdy path through life didn't prepare him for this. He had fought hard for his independence after Vietnam, surviving the chaos of the jungle, but now it felt as if he were in a different kind of war. Dave had never imagined sharing his space, his sanctuary, with anyone outside the vibrant relationship he had with Lily. The thought was unbearable. A dull throb of resentment ignited in the pit of his stomach. Days turned into a jumble of awkward shared meals, silence punctuated by Lily's cheerful attempts to bridge the gaps between them. Her in-laws, with their less money than manners background, invaded his meticulously crafted life. Their laughter rang out in the living room, moments of warmth mingling with his irritation. He could almost hear them judging his work-stained jeans and grease-covered hands. Then one evening, just as he tightened the last screw of an old Chevy outside, the storm hit. The winds howled like an angry beast, shaking the very foundations of their suburban fortress. As the storm wreaked havoc, he dared to peek inside. The sight was striking, neighbors banding together, fear replaced by a resolute commitment to help one another. That evening of chaos ushered in a fierce urgency in Dave's mechanic's heart. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As the community worked together to mend the damage, he watched Lily and her in-laws transform, working side by side with easy laughter amidst the wreckage. Each act of kindness pulled at my heartstrings, like someone gripping the brake when a car careens out of control. Their resilience was intoxicating, sharp against my cynicism. As he helped breathe, he began to question his stubborn pride.
The community spirit ignited a change within him. An inexplicable warmth began to replace the resentment. He felt the weight of isolation he had built around himself crumbling, brick by reluctant brick. Could family be more than a shared roof? Was helping others not a deeper connection than he had ever imagined? Just as relief began to flourish in his heart, another storm brewed on the horizon, one that could reshape everything he believed about the nature of family and belonging, a moral dilemma that would alter his understanding of sacrifice and love. Truth. The next morning broke with an eerie calm, the kind that often followed violent storms. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves. Dave stood in his driveway, staring at the remnants of the neighborhood chaos, and felt a pang of guilt twist in his gut. He had barely participated in the cleanup. He had watched from a distance, a reluctant participant in the unfolding unity that had been a surprising gift from the storm. As he stood there, scheming ways to avoid the bustle inside, he felt a soft vibration in his pocket. It was a text from Lily. "Can you help Grandpa with the garden today? They're trying to make the best of things." His heart raced. The idea of spending a whole day working side by side with her in-laws felt unbearable. He wanted nothing more than to retreat into his garage, to drown out the world with the familiar clang of tools and the scent of oil. Yet he felt the familiar pull of responsibility. It was time. Maybe today he could cast aside his reluctance and join the family he so often resisted. So, with a heavy heart, Dave dutifully walked to the backyard, where the clamor of gardening tools and the laughter of his in-laws filled the air. Smiling faces greeted him, wide-eyed and unbothered by his growing discomfort. "Look who decided to stop hiding," sang out Grandma Sue, a bright smile illuminating her features like sunlight breaking through clouds. He couldn't help but crack a thin smile in return. As they walked to the garden, he found himself drawn into their excitement. They were transforming the chaos left behind by the storm into something beautiful, each flower a symbol of resilience. Lizzie, his father-in-law, was digging fiercely into the ground, sweat glistening on his brow. Dave admired the determination in that act. It made him realize how much he too had dug deep in life, but had only managed to set aside and resent. "Hey Dave, can you help me with this stubborn weed?" Lizzie's voice broke through his thoughts. With a sigh, he walked over, reluctantly grabbed a spade and knelt beside him. As they worked together, Dave felt something shift. The soil beneath his hands was hard, unforgiving, but as they pulled the weeds, he found himself cracking jokes. "You sure this isn't a contest to see who can break their back faster?" Lizzie laughed, and for the first time, Dave felt a connection that was genuine.
Laughter rang through the garden like music, a melody that began to weave them all closer together. This gardening, in its very essence, was a lesson. There was value in the struggle, he realized, in pulling out the roots that held them down. As lunch approached, the day turned brighter, both outside and within. Grandma Sue brought sandwiches and lemonade, and they all settled down on the porch, the sun bathing them with warmth. Watching Lily share stories with her grandparents, he felt it, the bonds of family renewing and healing. Yet just as he began to relax, a familiar shadow crossed his heart with the distant thunder of his old fears. What if this was temporary? What if everything began to unravel when life's storms returned? He couldn't shake the uneasiness, and it gnawed at him. With the afternoon sun casting long shadows, Dave's gaze drifted from one face to another, each expression filled with familial love. He noticed whispered conversations and shared glances, and it struck him like a bolt of lightning. Was this what he had been missing all along? The possibility of love and compassion intertwined in family? But just as hope flickered, his phone buzzed again, pulling him from the moment. He glanced at the screen and saw a message from his old friend, Jack from Vietnam. "I need to talk to you, something important." His heart raced with worry. What could this possibly mean? Why now? As anxiety gripped him once more with a cold hand, a single thought surged through him. Was it all about to change again? Dave's heart pounded in his chest as the uncertain future loomed ahead. What would Jack's message bring into his life? The air felt charged with both anxiety and a newly found hope, leaving him standing at the precipice of yet another storm. The conversation shifted around him, but Dave barely heard it. He stared at the message, the words twisting like a knot in his stomach. Jack's tone felt urgent, heavy with unspoken weight. Memories flooded back, shared laughter and nightmares, how they fought to come home, both physically and emotionally. "Hey, you all right?" Lily's voice startled him. She frowned, concern etching her brow. "Yeah, just got a message from Jack," he replied, trying to mask the tension in his voice. "Jack? After all this time?" she asked, eyes widening with both surprise and curiosity. "Yeah," he forced a nod, but internally he felt hollow. "He says he needs to talk to me, something important." Lily put a hand on his arm, grounding him in the moment. "Maybe he's finally ready to open up about everything. You know he's been through a lot." He shrugged and glanced down, suddenly feeling the weight of not just his worries, but the fears of the past creeping back in. "I don't know, Lils. It's just, what if it stirs up all those feelings again?" Her grip tightened. "You've done so much better since then. You're stronger now. You can handle it." But could he? The earlier laughter faded, the sounds of joy distanced. What if Jack needed him for something he wasn't ready to face? What if he was still tethered to past demons? The ease of the day seeped away, replaced by an unsettling tension he couldn't shake. He looked around the porch, studying the faces surrounding him. Family, warmth, hope. It was everything he had craved. But could it last? Could he allow these good moments to take root while old shadows hovered overhead? "Dave, you joining us for dessert?" Lizzie called out, breaking through his spiraling thoughts. The sound of cheerful banter filled the air as Grandma Sue passed around the homemade pie, the sweetness tempting everyone. "Sure," he called back, forcing a smile. As they dug into the pie, he watched Lily float effortlessly between her grandparents, laughing and teasing, her joy blooming under the afternoon sun. It hurt to look at her, to think that he had spent so long hiding from all this. And now he yearned to connect, but the fear still gripped him tightly. Suddenly his phone buzzed again, the harsh sound cutting through his moment of reflection. It felt like an alarm. He braced himself as he looked at the screen. Another message from Jack. "Meet me at the diner. You'll want to hear this face to face." His pulse quickened. The diner, that old haunt where they used to share dreams and fears alike over greasy burgers and coffee that was too strong. The last place he wanted to revisit, but the urgency in Jack's message pulled him like a magnet. "Everything okay?" Lily asked again, sensing his unease. I have to go, he said, feeling the need for action, but also uncertainty gnawing away. It's Jack. He wants to meet. Do you want me to come with you? She offered, her voice a soothing balm against his anxiety. No, he replied quickly. This is something I need to face alone. He stood, pushing back from the table, the din of family laughter fading with each step. The porch felt suffocating now, the garden a stark contrast to his inner turmoil. As he walked away, a chill ran down his spine. What awaited him at that diner? What truths would surface in the shadows of their shared past? He stepped into his car, the familiar surroundings pressing in on him. The road stretched ahead like an unanswered question, one that he couldn't ignore any longer. As his engine roared to life, a heavy sigh escaped him. He looked back one last time at the garden, where laughter once flowed freely. Heart heavy, he felt the weight of change in the air. He was driving towards uncertainty, with both hope and dread entwined, ready to confront the shadows that loomed large. Could the storm brewing within lead to a new dawn, or would it sweep away everything he had begun to rebuild? His hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white with tension. He took a deep breath, trying to shake off the feeling of dread that wrapped around him like a thick fog. The diner loomed ahead, its flickering neon sign a stark contrast against the evening sky.
How many times had they spent hours inside, sharing stories and dreams, drowning their fears in cups of strong coffee? But tonight felt different. Tonight was a reckoning he hadn't been prepared for. Parking his car, Dave pushed the door open and stepped out into the cool evening air. The familiar scent of fried food and stale coffee wafted toward him, transporting him back to simpler times. But all he could feel was the weight of memories pressing down. Each step toward the diner felt heavier than the last, his heart starting to drum an uneasy beat. Inside, the diner buzzed with life. Families gathered over plates piled high with food, laughter mingling with the clinking of silverware. But none of that mattered to him. His gaze was fixed on the far corner booth, where Jack sat, a cigarette hanging from his fingers, smoke curling lazily toward the ceiling. Jack looked up as Dave approached, eyes guarded, yet something deeper flickered beneath the surface. "Hey," Dave said, sliding into the booth across from him. "Thanks for coming," Jack replied, his voice low, eyes starting around as if he expected someone else to overhear. Dave felt the tension seep between them, almost palpable. "What's going on? Your message, it sounded urgent." Jack took a long drag from his cigarette, exhaling slowly, the smoke mingling with the heaviness in the air. "I've been thinking a lot about the past, man. About us." He felt that knot tighten in his stomach again. "Us. What about it?" "I messed up, Dave. Back when everything happened." Jack's voice cracked slightly, raw and vulnerable. "I didn't handle things well. I should have been there for you. For us." Dave felt trapped, stuck between the desire to comfort his old friend and the burning resentment from years past. You left me to deal with it alone. I know it's not an excuse, but I'm here now. I need you to know that I'm trying to make things right," Jack implored, voice rising with urgency. "I just got out of rehab." The confession hung in the air like a dark cloud. Dave's mind raced. Rehab meant that Jack was still battling his demons. "I thought you were through with all that. I thought you were done running away," Dave replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "I thought so too." Jack sighed and ran a hand through his hair, frustration mingling with exhaustion. "But I can't keep pretending, Dave. Not anymore. I'm scared. I need you, your support. I can't fight this alone." In that moment, pieces of their past crashed together. The laughter, the pain, the moments of betrayal, and the deep bonds of friendship that were never completely severed. Was he ready to step back into this cycle? Did he have the strength to help Jack when he had barely managed to help himself? Silence enveloped them, thick enough to cut with a knife. Every noise in the diner faded as Dave considered his next words. Could he really bear the weight of his friend's struggles while still holding his own?
"Jack," he began, his voice heavy with conflict. But before he could say more, the booth door swung open, revealing a young waitress bustling with energy. "What can I get you fellas?" she asked, oblivious to the tension simmering between the two men. In that moment of distraction, Dave's resolve flickered. He looked back at Jack, who appeared worn yet hopeful. Perhaps this was the chance he needed, not just for Jack, but for himself. "Just coffee for now," Dave said, his voice shaking slightly. He knew whatever happened next would require more than just caffeine. The waitress nodded and moved away, leaving the silence once again resting heavily on their shoulders. Dave's mind raced, caught between fear of the past and the hope for the future. What if, for once, they could face their demons together? The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. Questions flooded in, wrapping him in uncertainty. Could he trust Jack again? As the waitress returned with steaming mugs, the enormity of the moment settled into the space between them. This conversation was only beginning, and as they sipped in silence, a spark ignited inside him. Maybe together they could forge a new path. "Dave, I need your help," Jack finally said, breaking the silence again, but this time with a glint of determination in his eye. But before he could respond, the diner door swung open once more, and the shadow of a looming figure cast over their booth. Dave's heart raced. Who else was coming into their already complicated world? Would this newcomer threaten the tenuous thread of hope they were trying to weave? Dave's stomach dropped as he looked up. The figure at the door momentarily eclipsed the overhead lights, a silhouette framed by the diner's bright neon glow. As the person stepped into the light, recognition jolted through him like a bolt of electricity. "Jenny?" he whispered, disbelief coloring his voice. Jack turned his head, and his brow furrowed. "You know her?" "Yeah, she's my daughter," Dave explained, shock still resonating in every corner of his mind. She wasn't just anybody. She represented a part of his life he had hoped was distant from this chaotic reunion. It had been months since he last saw her, their relationship strained by choices both had made. Jenny's eyes were wide, scanning the diner until they landed on her father. Her expression shifted from surprise to something deeper. Concern, perhaps? "Dad? What are you doing here?" she called, her voice steady but her gaze betrayed a hint of worry. Jack's face was a whirlwind, processing the news of Dave's daughter while also grappling with the gravity of their own conversation. Just catching up with an old friend," Dave replied, feeling a twinge of irritation for having to explain himself. His focus turned back to Jenny, suddenly protective. "What about you, Jen? Why are you here?" "I came for a quick bite before my shift, but you," she gestured to Jack, "isn't he—" "Yeah, he's not what it used to be," Dave admitted, his voice laced with caution. The shadows of their past loomed again, and he didn't want that to creep into this fragile moment between them. Jenny's eyes narrowed as they darted between the two men, her concern turning into a touch of determination. "You look like you could use a friend too, Dad." Her words acted as a mirror, forcing Dave to confront how he often buried his own struggles to protect those he loved. Jenny had always been his light, but lately the connection between them had felt strained and unsteady. "Everything's fine, Jen," he said, but the lie tasted bitter on his tongue. "I'm just helping Jack." At that moment, Jack leaned in slightly, a mix of vulnerability and determination in his eyes. "Your dad's been there for me when I needed it most," he said, his voice ringing with sincerity. Jenny studied Jack for a long moment, her brow relaxing slightly. "Maybe we all need that kind of support," she replied, crossing her arms. "But maybe we shouldn't be doing it alone." Dave felt the weight of her words pressing down on him, reminding him of how isolated he had felt since everything unraveled. He cleared his throat, glancing between Jack and Jenny, the realization sinking in. "We've been doing this all wrong," Dave finally admitted, the honesty spilling out like an unexpected flood. "I've been trying to handle things alone, and it's only made everything worse." Jack leaned back, absorbing the shift in tone. "Maybe we start fresh from here, together?" he asked, the hint of a smile breaking through the lingering shadows. Jenny nodded, her smile brightening the dim corner of the diner. There was an opportunity here, an unexpected coalition perhaps, one that could help them navigate the difficult paths ahead. "It could work," she said simply, the strength in her voice unexpectedly soothing. But just when Dave felt hope blooming, the door opened again, this time revealing a burly figure wearing a leather jacket, his face twisting into a sneer as he stepped inside, the warmth of the moment instantly chilled. "What do you think you're doing here, Jack?" the
the newcomer growled, drawing attention and wiping the hope from the table like spilled coffee. Dave's heart raced. Who was this? What kind of trouble was he bringing? As Jack's face shifted, a hint of fear creeping over his features, Dave's protective instincts kicked in. "You need to leave, now," he said firmly. But as the tension crackled in the air, he could feel all their fates intertwining in that fragile diner booth. What would happen now? Could they really forge this new understanding when danger loomed over them? Dave felt the weight of the air around him shift. The humor and hope that had been there just moments ago evaporated as the man in the leather jacket stepped further into the diner, the smirk on his face growing wider. "Jack," he said again, his voice low and menacing, "you shouldn't be here."
You think you can just run away and pretend everything's fine? Jack shifted in his seat, tension radiating from him like heat from a flame. "This isn't what it seems, Ben," he replied, his voice quivering slightly. "Seems pretty clear to me," Ben said, taking a step closer, eyes narrowing at Jenny. "You brought your little girl into this? That's a new low for you, Jack. How many times do I have to remind you that you don't get to just choose when to be a father?" Dave's heart pounded in his chest. He shot a warning glance at Jenny, who stood frozen, processing the confrontation. "This doesn't involve you," Dave said sharply, rising from his seat, his instincts screaming for him to shield Jenny from whatever this man had in mind. "Oh, but it does," Ben replied, his amusement dripping with malice. "You're all tangled up in a mess you can't see from your little diner booth." "Ben, just back off," Jack pleaded, his voice strained. "None of us want any trouble." But Ben only laughed, a harsh sound that bounced off the diner's walls. "Trouble? That's exactly what you've gotten yourself into, Jack. You can't escape your past." Feeling the fire in the diner dim, Dave tried to stay calm for Jenny's sake. "Just leave us alone," he insisted, stepping instinctively in front of Jenny, making sure she felt his presence. The clatter of silverware around them faded, replaced by the tension of the unspoken, and yet everyone seemed to understand the threat that was palpable in the air. Jenny, her voice trembling slightly, finally emerged from her shock. "Who are you?" she asked, her gaze flickering between Dave and Ben, the confusion creeping in. "Jenny, look," Dave started, but she interrupted him. "No, I want to know. Dad, who is he?" "Just someone who needs to leave," Dave said, keeping his focus on Ben, unwilling to break his protective stance even as Jenny's curiosity pulled her forward. Ben chuckled, enjoying their fear. "You'll regret getting involved with Jack here. He's not the man you think he is." "Enough!" Jack shouted, rising from his seat, finally meeting Ben's eyes with fierce determination. "This is between you and me. Leave them out of it." "Is it?" Ben shot back, stepping closer, closing the distance as if daring Jack to act. "Seems to me they already are in it, and you're the fool for thinking you could keep your past hidden." The words stung, and Dave's fists clenched, wanting to punch through the tension. He had seen enough violence in this life, enough to know that it rarely led to anything good. "Why don't we just step outside and settle this?" suggested Jack, voice steady but filled with desperation. Ben smirked, sizing him up. "Why, so you can run away again? We both know that's what you do best." Before Jack could respond, a waitress approached, sensing the brewing storm. She looked between them nervously. "Everything okay, gentlemen? Why don't you get a manager?"
Dave snapped, catching her worried eyes, realizing that this was expanding beyond all of their control. Without breaking eye contact with Ben, Jack turned toward Jenny, desperation in his gaze. "Jen, I swear I'll protect you. Just stay back." But at that moment, Jenny stepped forward, her eyes aflame with defiance. "No, I won't hide, Dad. I want to know what's happening." And as the diner held its breath, Dave felt a greater fear. It wasn't just about Ben's threats anymore. Could they really face their past together as a family? Would it tear them apart instead? The air was electric with uncertainty, and Dave realized he was about to lose everything he was trying to protect. But deeper down, there was a question lurking, one he hadn't shared with anyone. Could they rise together from this chaos? Or was this confrontation the beginning of something that would break them all apart? Jack's eyes flickered with a mix of restraint and fury as he faced Ben. The tension was like a taut wire, ready to snap. "We can talk about this," Jack urged, his voice strained but steady. "Just leave her out of this." "Oh, but she's already in it," Ben sneered, his gaze lingering on Jenny. "Her father's mess is now her mess, and from what I can see, she might not be the only one getting burned." "Shut up," Jack shouted, taking a hard step forward.
The diner felt smaller somehow, as if the walls were closing in around them, the chatter of customers like a distant echo. Jenny shivered, the heat of defiance still burning in her eyes, but Dave noticed the fear creeping in like shadows at dusk. "Dad, who is he?" she pressed again, her voice steady despite a storm brewing around her. "Just a bad memory," Jack said, his words clipped. He was still trying to shield her, but Dave could see the cracks forming. Jack was losing his grip. "Memory? Come on, Jack. We both know bad doesn't even begin to cover it," Ben laughed, taking a step closer, his voice a taunting whisper now. "You thought you could bury it all and walk away, didn't you? But that's not how it works. You owe, and the past doesn't forget." "Can't you see you're only making things worse?" Dave finally interjected, feeling a mix of anger and fear surging through him. "This isn't just about you two. You're scaring Jenny." Ben's gaze shifted, locking onto Dave with a menacing grin. "Oh, I'm just getting started. Maybe it's time your family man act was put to the test. After all, what do you really know about Jack's past?" Jenny moved slightly in front of Dave, a determined look replacing the fear that had clouded her face moments earlier. "I know enough," she said, and Dave felt raw pride mixed with dread. "I know he's trying to protect me." "You think you understand?" Jack countered, desperation creeping in. "You don't know what you're asking for, Jen. It's not just about me anymore. It's about all of us." I could feel the invisible threads of their shared lives tugging painfully at him.
"What do we do?" he whispered to Jack, but loud enough for everyone to hear. It felt right to say it out loud. "Step away and let me handle it," Jack replied, his tone more resolute. Ben smirked, eyeing Jack's resolute like a predator sizing up its prey. "Handle it? Last I checked, you were running scared. What makes you think you can pull it together now?" The waitress returned, her eyes wide with concern. "Should I call security?" she asked nervously, glancing around at the patrons who had stopped to watch. "No!" Jack and Dave said in unison, and that synchronized response only intensified the air thick with tension. "Just let her go," Dave urged, channeling his focus to both the waitress and Jack. "This can end without violence." "Then what do you propose?" Ben leaned in, challenging Dave as though he was the ultimate arbiter of conflict. "You think talking will save them? This isn't a fairy tale, buddy." The words slashed through the air, and Dave felt his resolve waver. The desperation of wanting to protect Jenny clashed with the reality of the storm brewing. Jack's past was merging with their present, and there was no escaping it. He glanced sideways at Jenny, who was watching the two men like a hawk. "You really want to face this, Jenny?" he asked quietly, his heart heavy. "Yes," she declared fiercely. "I want to know the truth, all of it." The resolve in her voice sent a shiver down Dave's spine. He knew they were entering a territory where forgiveness and anger could collide cataclysmically. Could they keep standing together when the truth was laid bare? As Ben chuckled darkly, Jack stood tall, preparing to face whatever was to come. The scent of batter and coffee filled the air as chatter resumed around them. But in their little corner of the diner, a storm was about to break. And the real question loomed larger than ever. Would the truth be the glue that held them together, or the hammer that shattered their fragile family? Jack could feel the weight of Jenny's determination pressing against him. He managed a small nod, knowing the path ahead was rocky. The room was buzzing around them, but it felt distant, faded like an old photograph. Jack stared at Ben, the man from his past that now threatened to smother the future they were desperately trying to build. Ben took a step back, his eyes narrowing. "You really think you can protect her, that you can keep her out of this?" A cruel smile crawled across his lips. "You're just digging your grave deeper, Jack. The truth hurts, and trust me, it's coming." "What do you want, Ben?" Jack challenged, fury bubbling beneath the surface. "You want money? You want to fight? Because it seems to me like all you're doing is creating more chaos." "Silly you," Ben mocked, shaking his head. "It's not about the money, it's about the game. I want to see how far you're willing to go to keep this charade of a family intact, and just how weak you really are."
Dave shifted on his feet, feeling the heat radiating from Jack. "This isn't a game, Ben. These are real lives we're talking about. You can't just toy with them." "Oh, but I can," Ben replied, pointing a finger at Dave. "And you're right in the middle of it. Playing hero doesn't suit you, family man. You're just a bystander, and soon enough, everyone will see it." With a swift motion, Jack moved closer to Jenny, placing himself as her shield. "We're not scared of you, Ben. You don't get to control us anymore. You might think you can intimidate us, but we're stronger than you realize." Ben's laughter echoed through the diner, and it felt like ice running through Jack's veins. "Strength, Jack? Is that what you call hiding behind your daughter and the man who you believe is your friend? When did you forget who you really are?" Jenny took a deep breath, her expression unwavering. "No more secrets. I want answers, Dad. Not just for me, but for you, too. You need to stop living in fear." Jack looked at her, and for a split second, he could see the little girl he used to know, the one who believed in fairy tales. But now she was here, standing courageous, demanding clarity in a life filled with shadows. The guilt washed over him like cold water. He had shielded her from too much, and it hadn't prepared her for the truth. "All right," he said quietly, the resignation hanging in the air. "All right, we'll talk. But not here, not with him." Ben's eyes glimmered with delight, and he motioned as if they were already caught in a trap. "Oh, please, wherever you go, I'll find you. You can't just run away now, Jack. You can't run from the past." "Maybe not," Dave said, stepping forward, heart pounding. "But we can choose to face it together. But it starts here and now, Jack. We don't have time to waste." The waitress stood by, anxiety brewing in her eyes, while other patrons turned back to their meals, pretending not to eavesdrop, but failing miserably. Jack shot a glance at Jenny, her eyes wide, searching his for reassurance. "Let's go somewhere quieter then," he conceded, ready to step into the storm. "Somewhere we can just talk, and it's my past, but it seems to include all of you now." As they moved toward the exit, Ben's voice slithered after them. "You think talking will save you? We'll see about that. Just remember, you can't escape the consequences." Once outside, the crisp air wrapped around them, and Jack inhaled deeply. Jenny walked close, her fingers brushing against his for a moment. It was a fragile connection, but it filled him with a flicker of hope. In the distance, the shadows of the evening stretched across the ground, dark and looming. Jack felt the weight of their decisions pressing against him. He had no idea what would happen next, but he knew that every step forward mattered.
Would they uncover the secrets that threatened to tear them apart? Or was this just the beginning of a greater conflict that would pit them against forces neither were prepared to face? The chill in the air felt sharper as Jack led Ginny and Dave away from the diner. The streets were quieter now, almost eerily so, as if the world had paused to listen. Jack glanced over his shoulder, half expecting to see Ben lurking just behind them. His confidence, once thick and burdensome, now teetered on the edge of a knife. "Where to?" Dave asked, brushing a hand through his hair, anxiety crackling between them like static electricity. "The park," Jack replied, determination settling into his voice. "We can sit on the benches by the fountain. It's secluded enough that we won't be overheard." Ginny walked close to Jack, her presence strengthening him. This was about more than just their safety. It was about laying bare the truth that had bound them in silence for too long. As they approached the park, the trees swayed gently in the breeze, their leaves whispering secrets that had long remained hidden. Jack settled on a bench, Jenny beside him and Dave across from them. The fountain gurgled softly, the sound washing over them like a balm. "Okay," Jack began, voice steady but laced with urgency. "Let's start with the first thing. Jenny, you deserve to know everything. You've seen enough to realize that I haven't been honest." "I want the truth, Dad, not just parts of it," she insisted, her eyes piercing yet soft, urging him to go deeper. He took a breath, his heart racing as memories flooded back, shadows of the past dancing around them like old ghosts. "Then, he wasn't just someone I knew. He was a part of a life I never wanted you to be a part of." "What do you mean?" Her brows knitted together, confusion mingling with determination. Jack hesitated, glancing at Dave, who nodded, a silent assurance that they were in this together. He pressed on. "After your mother left, I got tangled up in some dangerous things. People and choices that were wrong. I thought I left it all behind, but Ben was part of that world. He knows things about me, things I thought were buried." "Is that why you were so afraid of him?" Jenny asked, voice trembling slightly. "Partly, but it's not just fear, it's guilt. Guilt for dragging you into this. You deserve a normal life, free of my mistakes."
But if Ben is going to expose you, expose us, then we can't let him, Jenny protested, fire igniting in her voice. Jack nodded, feeling the heat of her fury, which mirrored his own. You're right. We can't back down, but we need a plan. Ben will do anything to get at me, and I won't put either of you in harm's way. An uneasy silence fell between them. Jenny's thoughts flickered momentarily, darting to the life she lived before, filled with bedtime stories and laughter, things that felt now like they were miles away. Dad, what if we find a way to take control back?
We can't just sit here waiting for him to act. Jack sat up straighter, inspired by her conviction. You're absolutely right. We need to come up with a strategy, information or leverage, whatever we can get to turn the tables. The air around them thickened with possibility, but his gut churned with uncertainty. Could they really confront the consequences of his past? As if reading his mind, Dave asked, "What's the first step, Jack? Where do we even start?" Jack's mind raced with thoughts, weighing options. He knew they had to rally their strength, pull together, and stand firm against the storm ahead. He felt the warmth of Jenny's presence beside him, anchoring him, but the knowledge of Ben's impending threat felt like a ticking clock. I think we need to gather information about Ben's latest moves, how best to learn what he knows and who else is involved. Jenny's expression turned grave. But what if he finds out we're looking? I don't want anything to happen to you. I promise I'll protect you, both of you, he said fiercely, holding her gaze. But we need to act, for you, for us. In that moment, the weight of their resolve settled around them, yet the unyielding fear lurked in the shadows. It was time to face the truth, to uncover the layers of deception wrapped around them. The echoes of their past were still whispering, but Jack felt a surge of hope. They could rewrite their story, transform fear into action. But just as they began to speak of their next steps, a figure emerged from the darkness at the edge of the park. Jack's heart raced, not just with the uncertainty of Ben's looming threat, but with the unmistakable feeling that they were no longer alone. "Looks like we might have company," he murmured, tension palpable in his voice. Jenny looked toward the approaching figure, her breath hitching. "Dad, who is that?" And the truth of what was coming next made Jack's skin crawl. Was this another ghost from his past, or something altogether more chilling? Everything had led to this moment. The question loomed heavily. How far were they willing to go to protect their future? As the figure advanced, clarity began to coat Jack's concern. The silhouette was familiar, someone who hadn't stepped into his life in years. It was Sam, an old acquaintance from his reckless days. The pulse of anxiety quickened in Jack's veins. He could sense Jenny's apprehension beside him. "Sam?" Jack called out, tone wary as the figure drew closer. "Hey, Jack," Sam replied. His casual demeanor contrasted sharply with the tension swirling around them. "Thought I'd find you here." He glanced at Jenny and then at Dave, assessing them with a sharp gaze. "Make it a family reunion, huh?" "What do you want?" Jack spat, the protective instinct rising within him. "I just came to check on you and see how you were handling things," Sam said, a smirk creeping onto his face. "Heard you've got some old friends back in town."
Dave interjected, stepping closer to Jack, ready to defend. "You're not welcome here. We don't need your kind of trouble." Sam shrugged, the cockiness rolling off him in waves. "Trouble? I'm just here to offer some support. You remember what we used to say, family sticks together, right?" Jack's heart raced with conflicting emotions. "That's not how it works anymore, Sam. I don't want anything to do with that life." Jenny, emboldened by her father's resolve, straightened up. "Who are you? What do you know about my dad's life?" "Enough," Sam smirked, looking her up and down. "Enough to know that he's got some unfinished business, and if you all think you're going to be safe from it, then you're mistaken." In the face of looming shadows, Jack felt the walls constricting around him. "What do you mean?" He tightened his fists, resisting the urge to lash out. Sam leaned in, voice low but biting. "You've no idea what Ben wants. It's bigger than just you, Jack. If you don't get ahead of this, I'd say you're putting her in jeopardy." Anger surged within Jack. "You don't get to threaten my family," he growled, feeling the heat radiate off him. "Threaten? I'm just laying down facts," Sam replied nonchalantly. "You've got choices to make. You can unite with others who know how to navigate this world, or you can keep hiding. But trust me, hiding won't get you far." Dave's jaw tightened at Sam's words. "What's your angle?" I'm just trying to help steer the ship towards calmer waters. Ben isn't some regular guy. He's got weight behind him. If you want any chance of safety, you'll need allies." With each word, Jack felt both irritation and fear begin to meld. Sam had lived through the gates of chaos, the shared memories of battle simmering beneath the surface. But could he trust him? "You think I need you? You've done nothing but burn bridges behind you." "Maybe so," Sam replied. "But right now, I want in. I see the storm brewing, and hey, I'm not in this for charity. We stand a better chance if we're together." "Together with you?" Jack scoffed, the instinct to reject the offer deep-rooted in bitterness. "I can't trust someone who's walked away from everything." "Trust is earned," Sam said, raising an eyebrow. "Are you doing everything you can to protect what matters most? Sounds to me like you've got a decision, a make-or-break moment." Jack swallowed, feeling the weight of realization settle heavily on his shoulders. Sam's presence was a stark reminder of the tangled choices he'd once made, ones that could infringe on his newfound life. But he also recognized a flicker of potential. Maybe this was the chance to gather more strength, more allies. "Jenny," he said finally, "I don't want you to be part of this." But as he looked at her, her resolute gaze sent a message louder than words, the determination to stand strong beside him. "I'm not turning back. We're a team now," she insisted. "Whatever comes next, we face it together."
"Sam's right about one thing," Dave interjected. "If Ben is a real threat, the best course would be not just to gather strength, but knowledge, plans. Maybe it's time to reconsider options." The weight of discord surrounded them like a storm cloud, churning uncertain thoughts. Jack could feel the tangled threads of fate drawing them into something larger than all of them. "All right, let's say I agree to this," Jack replied cautiously, meeting Sam's eyes. "What's the first step? How do we even start tackling this?" "First, we need to gather intel. Find out how far Ben's reach goes and who else might be involved," Sam answered swiftly, his tone shifting from cocky to commanding. "I have some contacts who might be willing to help if we play it right." "Contacts?" Jack echoed, skepticism mingling with intrigue. "The same old crew?" "Look, I'm offering a lifeline here," Sam breathed, moisture of urgency clinging to his words. "It's either that or risk losing everything you love again." Jack looked at his daughter, the way her presence stood tall and firm, despite the chaos encircling them. "Okay," he relented. "Let's give it a shot, but I'm warning you, this time I won't back down." With a newfound clarity settling among them, they formed an almost unbreakable bond, reinforcing not just walls, but a shield of resilience against the looming darkness. But just as they turned to walk back toward their plan, an eerie sound echoed nearby, a faint but threatening reminder of Ben's presence, lurking just beyond their reach, ready to pounce at any moment. "Stay close," Jack commanded, hand instinctively reaching for Jenny as they stepped into the precarious territory ahead. The stakes had never felt higher. Could they navigate the treacherous depths of their past and emerge unscathed, or would this newfound alliance push them further into the storm? As they left the park behind, Jack held tightly onto that hope, the belief that together they could forge a new path, facing whatever lurking shadows awaited them. Now the question remained, would the truth set them free or bring them crashing down? Only time would tell. But as they stepped forward, the weight of hope hung in the air, and for the first time, Jack felt the flicker of possibility surge through him like fire, a flame igniting from the ashes of yesterday, a promise of redemption leading toward whatever lay ahead. Before he knew it, he realized they were all linked together in this fight, not just against the shadows, but towards something brighter. Could their journey illustrate that even the most fractured of lives can find unity in the face of adversity? As they moved forward, the flickering embers of change illuminated their path. The storm was just beginning, but together they had a chance to brave the odds and perhaps find their way home. So, if you're feeling inspired by their journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for more stories like this.
Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment below with your thoughts about this heart-pounding climax. And don't wait, not even one more second, to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation. Times are tough, but with community and connection, we can rise above together.